what's going on? Jacob from Ahava, Echad. Welcome back. We're continuing with source number 4, which is our Torahs in plural, the 2 Torahs that we have. Okay, and that is bringing us to this page and this page as well, which when it's printed, you would just tilt the book, but I'm going to rotate the PDF here. Okay, rotate that one, and at the same time, I'll just rotate this one. Okay, so we could see it clearly, sort of widescreen. And this poster essentially is depicting the 2 Torahs that we have. We have a Torah that's needed to be seen in sight. That's the scribed written Torah. That's on the right here, where you can see the eye pathways, which is the masculine Torah, which men are more visual, meaning that's why, Has v'shalom, advertising, whatever, is what it is, because they understand that the men go after the eyes, but women are more with the ears. They need to hear things better. They're more logical. Okay, and so the men are seeing, again, these are general rules, and there's always exceptions to certain rules. There are exceptions to certain rules, not always exceptions to certain rules. Certain rules don't have any exceptions, but certain rules do. And here, this is an exception. But in general, men are seen as the masculine. The women are the audio and sight, and in order to hear and to listen, you have to build things. You have to unite a bunch of different things and start to build and combine them, and that's actually what the feminine is able to do in the womb, and start to build the whole entire universe known as a baby. But you have the scribed Torah, which you have to see with your eyes. That's the Torah T.M.E.S.F.E.B, that is in script, which are the pictures. The Torah is the picture book, essentially, and then the spoken Torah is the explanation of everything. The scribed Torah is scribed with the Aleph-Bet, and which the Aleph-Bet, as we said, are pictures, and so meaning the whole Torah, scribed written Torah, is a picture book, and then the whole spoken Torah is the explanation of everything. What are the symbols depicting? What do these words mean? And what is the story? How do you even read it? How do you understand it? What's the depth? What's the metadata behind it? What's the context? What's everything? That's all transmitted. Initially, it was transmitted only by speech. It was not allowed to be written down, and simply also it can't really be written down because it's so vast, it's so large, of such a huge amount of information. But different great sages through prophecy saw that it would be very difficult times, and if they wanted to ensure that it would never be forgotten, so they organized the entire Torah Sheba'al Peh and committed it to writing. That's beginning with the Mishnah, and then different sages committed different parts of the entire system of Torah to writing. You still need someone to be able to read it and to activate it, because as we mentioned, that Torah Sheba'al Peh needs to be heard, because that's how it was given. So someone has to still read it to you. You have to receive it and hear it from someone else who received it as it was given. And the same with the written Torah. You have to see it for yourself in the original script and form and everything like that. And so together, these are the 2 Torahs. That the written Torah, you need to see it in the day, and the day was where the pillars of clouds were, and clouds are made of water, and so the water is compared to the written scribed Torah, which it flows down from the highest places to the lowest places, and then the Nun, the spoken Torah, is the feminine, which is the fire at night, which illuminates the darkness, and that you don't need sight to be able to hear in the darkness, and in fact, hearing is how we see in the darkness. And this is the 2 Torahs that we have, and you have to unite them, the feminine and the masculine, and then they create the new ideas when they unite together as one, because they were given together as one. And so this verse, V'higita bo yomam balayla, these are the Torahs that you should learn and occupy in them night and day, or day and night, days and night included as well. And this is that verse that God says to Yehoshua, that this Torah will not be removed from your mouth, and you will meditate and go through it days and the nights as well. Leman tishmor, in order to safeguard always on your mind, to be able to do it and to fully understand every step you take in the world, what you need to be doing, what you can do, and what's the best way to do it. Ki az tatzliach et derachecha, because then you are going to succeed in all of your paths. Ve'az taskil, and then you're going to get the full wisdom and essentially reaching like prophetic levels, but then you'll be able to get the skill and wisdom and everything like that. Okay? And so that is this source, and that's introducing us to the two Torahs that we have. And the spoken Torah is way bigger than the scribed written Torah in size. And about the spoken Torah, they say wider than the entire ocean. The vastness of the entire Torah is indescribable. With the written Torah, you could fit it in one book, let's say. But the spoken Torah fills up gigantic libraries, and it's endless. Obviously, there is the core that has been codified by those great sages to ensure that it would never be forgotten, but those are really the jump start, the conversation starters to the entire system of Torah Sheba'al-Peh. That's what the Mishnah is. Super condensed, it's like an index of the entire Torah Sheba'al-Peh, super condensed to be like a launch pad to everything. Every nuance there is meant to be meditated, asked upon, and is transmitted, obviously, the meaning behind it, but it launches us into the entire thing. So all the topics of the entire Torah Sheba'al-Peh are already preserved in the Mishnah. Okay, and the sharpened teachings will go into more in depth as to what that is and how that goes, but essentially the final thing we'll close here just to understand the significance of this is that the spoken Torah preceded the scribed written Torah here on this earth, because before Moshe could even scribe the very first symbol of the Torah, the Bet of Bereshit, Hashem had to tell Moshe all of Masechet Sofrim, all the tractate of scribes, all the rules, and even scribing and preparing an authentic Torah scroll, because on what is Moshe scribing? Could it be a paper? Could it be a leaf? Could it be papyrus? Could it be in a stone? No. The written Torah has to be written on the kosher hide of a kosher animal with the lines already made, and it has to be written with a special black metallic ink that stays, and it has to be scribed perfectly. And all of these rules preceded that very first symbol. God had to tell Moshe how to prepare the parchment, how to prepare the ink, how to make the lines, how to do everything in order to be, and how to even slaughter the animal to make sure that there's no suffering. Kosher animals only have one pathway to the brain, as Rabbi Zamir Konshita reveals. And so all these evil attacks in the world, saying, it's foolish. It's so foolish saying that kosher is inhumane is actually, again, the accusation where you point the finger, there's three fingers pointing back at you. There's really, meaning you're the one who's probably guilty of that, and really they are. Kosher slaughter, when it's done right, and it's not kosher if it's not done right. Kosher slaughter is one instant death with the sharpest knife, no nicks. It can't be used if there's a slight nick in it. Again, all these rules, that's beyond the scope of right now. But again, just wanted to point out the mercy that God has and the beauty of the actual religion and the sensitivity that if you do require animals, you make sure that the things don't suffer. So that's beyond the scope of right now. But all of that had to be told to Moshe before Moshe could even scribe. So the spoken Torah precedes the written Torah, and that's why really the spoken Torah, which is in the nighttime really precedes the daytime. The night is the beginning of a new set of 24 hours. When 3 stars come out in the sky, that is the beginning of a new day. So really, the structure of a day and the structure of existence is first it begins in darkness, and then it gets pitch black darkness until the light starts to arrive and drive out the darkness until the full sunrise and until the sun is then in its strength. So first it begins in darkness and ends in light, not as opposed to the day begins in light, ends in darkness, God forbid. All these psychological effects are, who knows how to properly measure all these things and subconsciously and everything what this does. But these are the two Torahs, and they parallel the two hemispheres. The right hemisphere is seen as the masculine, the left is the feminine. That's why this chart is masculine, feminine, sight and sound. And together, when sight and sound click, that's video, and that's the brain stem that unites the two halves, and that's paralleling the written Torah, the Mishnah, the Chumash, the Mishnah, and then the Talmud, which unites the two halves and yields all these new amazing teachings and experience. This is based on the Vilna Gaon and other great sages, gigantic sages. Okay, so that is the source number 4, and now we understand our Torahs in plural. What are they? Masculine, feminine halves. feminine, masculine, really, for us on earth, the feminine Torah, the spoken Torah, preceded the written Torah, as we mentioned. And that's hugely important to know. Thank you so much for watching. Again, let me know any comments, questions, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you.